If you're about to go for your O-1 visa interview at the US consulate abroad, watch this video for top tips and tricks on how to ace the interview and get your visa approved. Hi everyone, my name is Marcus and I'm an immigration attorney. Today we will be talking about the O-1 visa interview. So this assumes that you've been approved for your O-1 visa before USCIS already, and now that it's time to get the actual visa in your passport, you're going to need to schedule an interview with a US consulate abroad. You can't actually do it in the United States. So the way this works is that you kind of figure out which country you want to go to. Usually it's the home country, and you contact the US consulate in the home country, kind of figure out what the requirements are, pay the fee, and schedule an interview, and then you just go for the interview. So today we're going to be talking about top tips and tricks that you can use to help you ace your interview and make sure that your visa is approved. Because one thing you need to know is that if for some reason they deny your interview and you don't get the visa, it could possibly mean that they're going to revoke the entire thing and you're going to have to start all over again. So let's take a look at the top tips now. Tip number one is to make sure that you have a solid online presence. So these days, immigration officers actually know how to use the internet, believe it or not. So they will be Googling you when they, go through the interview process. So one thing to make sure is that all your credits, your website, everything's really, really detailed, and there's no examples of fraud or anything that might prevent you from getting denied the visa. So make sure that your online presence is solid. Tip number two, get there early. Get there on time, but you should get there a little bit early because usually there's a bunch of security procedures that you're going to have to go through before you even get to see the immigration officer. So you want to get there a little bit ahead of time just to make sure that you're not rushing and it's not going to delay your interview time because of all the security procedures you're going to have to go through before you actually walk in the door. Tip number three, dress the part. The fact is, if you're applying for the O-1 visa, it means that you're extraordinary. So you should look as if you are extraordinary. Don't show up looking like you just rolled out a bid and just don't care, because the immigration officer will definitely take that into account. So if you look the part, you dress the part, it's more likely that they're going to believe that you are extraordinary and will be able to get the visa. Tip number four, make sure you have all the required documents that the consulate wants. So every single consulate will usually send you a checklist, or they already have a checklist on their website. Make sure you go through the checklist really, really carefully and make sure you have everything on hand once you walk in the door, because if not, they might either deny you right away at the interview, or they might ask you to come back with the evidence on a different day, and that's going to it's going to delay the process of you getting the visa on time. Tip number five, print out a copy of the application. So you remember the application that your attorney should have sent to immigration? They should have given you a copy, either electronic or a paper copy or something like that. So you're going to want to print out that copy and bring it with you to the interview. And the reason why is that you want to have all these supporting documents to be able to pull out in the event that they ask for these, for example, if they want more specific examples, they want to be able to see the contracts, you want to be able to have it on hand. If not, they might either deny you outright or ask you to come back or submit the documents later, and that's going to make the processing time significantly longer. So the thing is that you don't actually want to give it to them right from the start. You want to hold on to it, see what they say, and see if you actually need those documentation in the first place. Because the thing is that if you actually give them the whole pile of documentation, they might start digging through it and might start giving you a harder time at the interview. So don't actually give anything to them until it's time, or unless they ask for it. Tip number six, you have to know the application inside out. So just because your attorney prepared the application for you, it does not mean that you have an excuse in terms of not understanding why you meet the criteria. Because if I'm an immigration officer and I'm asking you specific questions about the criteria and specific questions about your work, you're expected to know these things because it's your work. And for example, if I say hey, I don't feel that you have enough lead credits, what you're gonna say? Are you gonna say, yeah, I think you're right? No, you're not gonna say that, because once you do that, you're basically admitting that you do not fit the criteria. So what you need to do is calmly and courteously explain to the officer why you actually do meet the criteria in the event that they don't actually believe you, or maybe they're also trying to test you in terms of to see how well do you know your material, and also whether you really are extraordinary or whether you actually have done the credits that you say you've done. So you need to know the application inside out. And the last tip number 7, is basically this. You can always ask for a supervisor in the event that the immigration officer is doing something inappropriate. I would use this tip really, really carefully though. So just because it's not going well, it doesn't mean that you automatically ask for a supervisor. You would want to ask for a supervisor if the immigration officer is asking you really inappropriate things. If they start talking about your sex life, if they start asking you questions based on race or your age or something that is really, has to do with discrimination. So just because an officer is grumpy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to ask for a supervisor, but just bear in mind that it is possible, and in the event that they are a little bit more, inappropriate, then that is the time that you want to ask for a supervisor. So thank you so much for watching this video. It's a really short video. I hope that all these tips will help you ace your interview and keep you calmer and help you get your visa.